I'm Korean teacher Hyunok Jang.
And I'm Gerhard. I'm learning Korean. Today we're going to talk about the pronunciation of the Korean consonant
르, 르.
R. This can be tricky for many learners because R can sound like both an R, or L. Let's break it down.
In Korean, there's no distinction between R and L sounds.
R can be pronounced like an R or an L. That's true to many Asian languages. You probably already know that many Asians have problems pronouncing the R. This is because there is no R in Korean or also in Chinese, for example. Or rather, because in many Asian languages, they don't distinguish between R and L.
For Korean speakers, distinguishing between R and L is difficult because we only have one letter for both and don't learn to differentiate.
That's similar to us having problems differentiating between...
쯔, 쯔, 쯔.
Exactly. We might have these sounds in our Western languages, but we don't have letters for them and do not consciously differentiate them. So there is an R and there is an L in Korean, but Koreans don't know how to hear the difference or when it's pronounced how. However, you won't have a problem pronouncing R if you know the rule. Now, what's the rule? The rule is that when R is the first consonant in a syllable, it's pronounced as R. It doesn't matter which syllable it is in the word, if it's the initial consonant. So if it's not the final consonant of a syllable, it doesn't have to be the first syllable in a word, but the first consonant in a syllable.
For example, in the words 사람, 라면, 라디오,
R. First consonant of a syllable. But when R is the final consonant, called Batchim, it's pronounced as L. Batchim is the consonant that appears at the bottom of a syllable block. We learned everything we need to know about Batchim in lesson number 7 of the alphabet playlist.
In words like 말, 물, 일. 르 is a 받침, so it sounds like L.
L. Let's now take a look at 2 exceptions before we wrap it up. There's a special case where R is followed by another R. In that case, even though it's not the initial consonant, it is still pronounced as L.
For example, 물론, 멀리, 말랑. So both are L.
Both are L. They are kind of merged together, right? It's not mulron.
멀리, 말랑.
So if Batchim R is followed by a syllable that begins with R, it's L. And the second rule, in words where Batchim R is followed by a syllable with H as the first consonant, H is pronounced very softly and becomes almost like a placeholder. Let's take a look at that.
That's the case in words like 일하다 or 일하다. And 말하다 or 말하다.
So the Batchim R is pronounced as L, malhada, but we pronounce H very weakly, almost like irada instead of ilhada. So the H becomes kind of like a placeholder.
Okay, placeholder.
And the r, mal, is pulled over. And then when it's at the beginning of the syllable, it becomes r.
Yeah, so 일하다, 말하다.
So even if the h in this case is not a placeholder, the liaison rule, the one we discussed in the lesson number 8 of the Korean alphabet, is applied. And that's why l is pulled over and becomes r.
Yeah. So 일하다 or 일하다, both are correct.
Both are correct.
Yeah.
But in everyday Korean,
일하다.
일하다, because it's more fluent, I guess.
Yes.
That's true every time h follows any batchim, but in the case of r, it matters more because r is pronounced differently depending on where it is in the syllable. To master the rule that applies to h, you find a link to another pronunciation video in the description. And if you can't remember the liaison rule responsible for pulling the batchim into the next syllable when followed by a placeholder, revisit the last lesson, lesson number 8 of the playlist on the Korean alphabet. If you follow the rule that the first r in a syllable is pronounced as r and the batchim r as l, you will get it right, don't worry.
Don't worry.
If you have problems pronouncing it, remember if you want r to sound like r, let the tip of your tongue touch the roof of your mouth and pronounce a rolled r, similar to the Spanish r.
That's all for today's lesson.
And the pronunciation of r. Keep practicing and we see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.